Hello, everyone. Welcome to Kanata Views. Today, I'm here with Scott.
Great to be back here, Dan.
Yeah, great to have you again. And also with Tara. She is a journalist with a focus on the Islamic world. Her writing on women's rights in Saudi Arabia has been cited by 2 different human rights organizations.
Hi, it's great to be here today. Thank you, Dan.
And great to have you back as well, Tara. With pleasure. Okay, so today we're talking about this blasphemy case in Pakistan. Would you like to elaborate on the details of this for our audience?
All right, so just for anyone who has not really kept up with the Asia Bibi case, so Asia Bibi is a Christian field worker in Pakistan, a country that has a lot of persecution against Christians and other minorities. But the story is basically she was out working in the field alongside 2 Muslim women, and they were upset that a Christian woman used the same bowl of water as them. Because due to beliefs about ritual impurity, they thought a non-Muslim women shouldn't touch the same bowl of water. What we know, and this is where there's kind of contested details, is this led to a spat and quote unquote harsh words were said by Asia, but one of the Muslim women accused Asia then of insulting Prophet Muhammad. She said that was something Asia said in their heated exchange. And she went to an imam about it, and this led to Asia being accused of blasphemy under Pakistan's blasphemy law 295C, which is insulting any recognized religion. And she said Asia insulted the Prophet Muhammad, but Asia Bibi says she did not insult the Prophet Muhammad. So there are multiple layers where we can kind of just see the ridiculousness of it. First of all, let's say hypothetically, and I don't think this happened because I think Christians would be too scared to do this, but let's say Asia insulted the Prophet Muhammad. They're saying that she should be killed for this. Now, the next level of this is the idea that, oh my God, she touched the same bowl of water as me. I don't want to drink it now. So this kind of Islamic supremacy is very prevalent in Pakistan, the societal hatred against minorities. And so it's ridiculous on that level, this whole notion of ritual impurity.
Yeah, it sounds very obvious that this is a case of some kind of personal squabble that's been turned into a huge legal issue. And I guess this is sort of this is one of the problems with blasphemy laws, besides the obvious, is that it's quite easy to just accuse someone of insulting Prophet Muhammad or whatever. So the question is, how often are people prosecuted for insulting Christianity and other religions in Pakistan?
Pakistan, never, like you're saying, Tara, sort of Christians and other religious minorities, they're basically, like a lower class citizen in Pakistan and similar nations. So obviously, although, like as you said, the law theoretically is about punishing people who insult any religion, obviously, this is never going to happen to anyone that insults, Christianity or Buddhism or anything else. I just wanted to get your thoughts, Tara. So obviously, in the last few months, Pakistan has had an election. It's elected Imran Khan, who's sort of a more conservative figure who's sort of got in with the support of sort of hardline Islamist figures. What role do you think that might play in sort of the potential outcome of the Asia Bibi case and sort of for the persecution of religious minorities in Pakistan more generally?
I want to be a bit honest here. I don't actually know that much about Imran Khan as a person. I have heard many other people say that he is a big part of the problem. However, to be honest, though, so I've interviewed Pakistanis in England, so British Pakistanis before, who, the thing is, they were persecuted in England even by other Pakistanis, and this has actually happened for a very long time. So to be very honest, even though it does sound like Imran Khan is a big part of the problem, it appears to me as though this kind of hatred has been a part of Pakistan for I don't even know how long. So I'm not sure that I would really say that, you know, he is the cause of this, because clearly this has just gone on for you know, the family that I interviewed, they were physically attacked in the early 2000s even. So I'm just not sure that's really as big a problem. Yeah,
certainly Imran Khan wouldn't be sort of like the cause of it. I guess more what I'm saying is, would you see him as sort of like a further acceleration of this trend of like hardline Islamism within Pakistani society, and as like a continuation of this more sort of like fundamental trend over there?
Well, see, right now we don't know what the outcome of the Asia Bibi case is yet, because you know they're reserving it. They are now reserving the final outcome, so we don't know what it is. But what many people are saying is that this, for Imran Khan, as you're asking me, this is kind of a test to see if maybe there's a glimmer of hope for him, or if he's truly just an extremist. People are asking him to come to Asia Bibi's defense. He doesn't appear to be coming to her defense, so.
Yeah, I was doing a bit of reading on sort of the Asia Bibi case, and sort of in terms of obviously like Imran Khan and sort of like some of the other leading politicians in the country. It doesn't seem like Khan has sort of made much comment either way. Like I think also the thing is to consider is that on the one hand, like Imran Khan is trying to sort of play himself off as this like moderate or like reformist figure, but his actions more often than not see him as, you know, acting in line with sort of like the more hardline Islamists. So it's hard to know like how he's actually going to react, if he's going to like intervene or anything like that. So,
and one thing I think is important to note about that, because you're absolutely right that when it comes to the Asia Bibi case in particular, he just doesn't appear to be saying anything. So he's not saying, you know, hang her either. He's just kind of staying quiet. I think what is important to note about this is it could very well be out of fear. So to get further into Imran Khan could actually be, you know, maybe he really is slightly more moderate, or he really is reformist, you know, inside. Like none of us can tell what's going on in his mind, but maybe he actually doesn't want Asia to die. Maybe he wants more rights for minorities and a more moderate country. The thing is, we can't know that though, and because he might be staying quiet because he knows if he says something, he could be killed. So there was a lawyer who was going to defend Asia Bibi, and he was assassinated by the hardliners. Now, in addition to this, so it's already happened, like people have been killed for defending her, and he knows that. So that could be why he's staying quiet. In addition to this, so if we look at some of the hashtags on Twitter, there's a punish Asia hashtags going on. And there are people who say, if Asia is freed, then I'll kill her. So basically, if she is freed, and this is so heartbreaking, there's a high chance that she could be mauled, you know. So if Imran Khan stands up for her, I think he knows full well that he could just get mauled to death too. So basically, we can't actually know what's going on in his mind, because, you know, he won't dare to say it out loud.
Yeah, and I think the fact that there is such a like a strong undercurrent of sort of that Islamist mentality within society, like it's so hard for, like, you know, the rule of law to sort of take its course, or for, you know, any sort of like moderation in terms of the law or policy or anything like that, because, you know, if you try to reform it, then the Islamists are going to sort of come after you. Like I also remember reading about there's sort of, being like a bounty placed on Asia's head, obviously previous lawyers having been assassinated, her current lawyer is having to live under, constant guard. I was reading how his lawyer is talking about how there's a constant sort of specter of death, like, if he goes out at the wrong time of the day or without, armed guard, that's pretty much a death sentence for him as well. So, yeah, that's such a high price to, even launch like the most tepid defense of sort of Christians or like human rights in general in Pakistan. And I think the Asia Bibi case just highlights just how, how big the problem has got. And you sort of mentioned that a bit in your article for Canada's News, how there is obviously this huge problem with, the persecution of minorities in Pakistan.
Minority persecution is a huge problem in Pakistan. I would say the two most notable groups are Christians, but I think maybe even more notable than that are the Ahmadi Muslims, who Sunnis and Shias, by the way, they've been persecuted by Shias who don't see them as being really Muslim because they believe that the Qayyim has already come. That's the promised one that Muslims have been awaiting. They think that he's already come, and they think that it's apostasy because they don't agree that this person is the Qayyim. So they call them apostates, and they say, oh, you're not really Muslims, like you believe in a new prophet or whatever. It's ridiculous. But so Ahmadis are horribly persecuted as well. There was one Shia cleric who earlier this year gave a speech against both Ahmadis and Baha'is. And Christians, despite being, a recognized group, Christians are still very horribly persecuted. I don't know how much you know about Islamic laws on dhimmi, but it's essentially, we tolerate Christians and Jews, but they have to pay a special tax. They can't have certain rights that Muslims have. dhimmi is kind of enforced differently in different places. So many countries don't make Christians pay a special tax, but there's just this discrimination in a wide range of areas, and it leads into a societal hatred.
You mentioned the clerics. How much of a role do you think the clerics are playing in all of this? So let's look at the Asia Bibi case, for example. From what I understand, one of the women involved in the case took her complaint to an imam first, and because she complained to the imam, like, oh, Asia insulted Prophet Muhammad, that set off just a really huge. That's what set off the case. So I guess what we could clearly see is, okay, clearly just in the society in general, clerics have a major influence. Imams have a major influence. With Christians, we were talking about the blasphemy law, and you were saying, it's very easy to use it against anyone, like, oh, he committed blasphemy. So the thing is, this, with Christians as a group in particular, it does appear from just things that I read that this accusation of blasphemy is particularly used against them. Just when a Christian does something that a Muslim doesn't like, they'll say, oh, well, he committed blasphemy. Yeah, it seems like the purpose of these blasphemy laws are not so much to actually prevent offence to religions as they are to make sure that religious minorities are kept as second-class citizens.
So obviously there's a lot of attention on the Asia Bibi case, but I just want to get your ideas of, like, how many cases, I guess, roughly per year, like how sort of widespread is sort of the use of like blasphemy laws and these sort of cases against minorities in Pakistan. And I guess talk a little bit about how we obviously, there's a lot of attention on this case, but I guess we also need to think about, all the minorities in Pakistan who are probably going through similar things you know, whether it be through the courts or just like in an informal sort of societal level that, you know, we might not necessarily hear about or know less about, that are sort of happening like as we speak.
Right. So so in terms of the particular question, like how often does this happen? It happens a lot. I don't think I can actually tell you the exact number of, you know, this many accusations of blasphemy happen, but it happens a lot. So I would really recommend go to the website of British Pakistani Christian Association, because they specialize in this for Christians. But they just go to their news, and they have, you know, example after example after example. You know, they update it regularly. So it's from recently. And there are so many of them. I don't know how many there are.
Why is this particular case blown up? I mean, even to begin with, it was always on sort of shaky ground. So how come this has progressed all the way to a death sentence and international media attention?
Well, so there are some situations where what happens is a Christian is accused of blasphemy, and then basically they just kill them like in a vigilante attack. So they don't take it to the court or anything. Like, okay, for example, in 2015 it was like a Christian couple that got burned alive in a brick kiln. It's like very horrific things like these. So the thing is, typically what happens is it's not even brought to a court or anything. It just, the people take it into their own hands and kill them. But in this case, apparently the women had the civility to not kill them, to not kill Asia themselves. So they've taken it to the legal process. But people with this mentality want the court to kill her. So I think the important thing here, what we should focus on, is what does this mean for minorities in the Islamic world at large, and not just in Pakistan. So first of all, even just in Pakistan, the Asia Bibi case is a big deal, because even though there are all these accusations of blasphemy, from what I know, nobody has actually been formally executed for it for a long time. People are assassinated by vigilante violence and random people, but no one has been formally legally executed in Pakistan for blasphemy for a long time. At least I believe. So people are very worried about the Asia Bibi case because of the direction it will send Pakistan. But in my opinion, though, this is not just about Pakistan. This will actually set a precedent for the Islamic world. So to go into this, what we see in the Islamic world is that trends in behavior tend to spread a lot. So let's look at the Arab Spring, for example. It started in Egypt, and then it spread to Tunisia, and then to Algeria, and just across the Arab world. Like people saw Egyptians rising up against dictators, and then they did the same in their countries. So we can see that trends spread quickly from one Muslim country to another. So right now, all across the Islamic world, religious minorities are persecuted. So in Yemen, there are Baha'is who are on death row. In Egypt, Christians are very persecuted. And the thing about the Asia Bibi case is that if she's executed, look at all the countries that are going to follow, or that could follow the example. I think that's the important thing. Fingers crossed, I don't know if it'll happen. If she's freed, then imagine the positive impact that could have across the Islamic world. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so you think, I guess the Asia Bibi case is almost like it's sort of like I guess it's like a marker for sort of like cultural attitudes like within the Islamic world. So basically, what you're saying is basically there's kind of a trend towards like an even more sort of authoritarian, like religious bent in many Islamic countries. And, if Pakistan were to execute Asia Bibi, although there's already this sort of like vigilante justice sort of culture against religious minorities, by having that sort of formalized within legal precedent for like a state-sanctioned execution, then Pakistan becomes, you know, just another country within the Islamic world that, you know, endorses, you know, the execution of minorities, and then obviously the flow-on effects, you know, perhaps to other sort of Central Asian countries like Afghanistan and so on that are Islamic, and that sort of thing.
Of course, there is another concern, which is sort of even worse, is if she isn't executed, if the clerics make a big fuss about it, we could see even more vigilante attacks, even more sort of extrajudicial killings of religious minorities, of Christians, of atheists, and so on, all across the Islamic world. So it's a pretty awful situation all round, as far as I can tell.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much for joining us, Tara, and Scott, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Always great to have you both. You're both always welcome. Okay, and if you like this video, do leave a like. If you have anything to add, do leave a comment underneath. Subscribe if you want to see more, and hopefully we will see you again soon. Thank you.